and how we can use this in if statements and while loops, but they're also useful for else if statements, for do while loops and for loops. And as you know, these are the same as booleans, but they're not in their boolean form. As you can see, they're just as statements. So I showed you guys this in class, but I just wanted to make a video and reinforce. So here I have a console write line statement with this conditional statement as a parameter. And as you can see, the write line will register as a boolean being passed on, and it'll write either true or false. And then I have an if statement here saying if 20 is greater than 20, then you write 20 is greater than 20. But if not, then you have 20 is greater than 19. An else if statement with 20 being greater than 19, you have that being written as a string. So let's run this. So first we get a true statement because this is what the evaluation becomes. And then we have this 20 greater than 18 because it comes to here. Now if I change this to 20 being greater than 19, then we're going to come in here and not into the else if statement because that's how it works. If it comes in here, it completely skips the else if. And I would also skip an else, but we're talking about conditional statement at the moment. As you can see, I have a warning here. The warning comes from the fact that because this is true and C# can tell, it will not go into this line. And if I change this to 20 being greater than 20, I still get a warning, but it's because C# knows that the code will not come in here this time around. So this is pretty straightforward, but if you have doubts, please let me know. Conditional statements might be a little complicated to some people, and if you have questions, we can always get together. Let me know. I only know what you guys tell me. So now we're going to come to a while loop. Here I have a counter, and my conditional statement is, my counter being less than 9. If it's true, it runs, and I'm just printing out the counter. Now the first number to be printed out will be 1 because I'm saying count equals count plus 1, so by the time I get here it'll be 1 the first time around. And just as a note, I can either put the code this way, count equals count plus 1, or I can say count plus equals 1. They mean the same thing. And lastly, I could say count plus plus. And actually, fun fact, I can also say plus plus count. So there's many ways to increase an integer by 1, and it doesn't really matter. There is a difference between these two, and we'll explore that in a second, just as an extra to this to this video. So let's run this for now, and it'll write. Let's add 1 because it again it adds 1 already. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 9, and let's see if anything changes in here. And as you can tell, nothing changes. So here's where it's gonna get interesting. I'm gonna put the count plus plus inside the right line. And so we're gonna run this, and as you can see, the first number is 0. And then instead of doing 1 through 9, is 0 through 8. Now what will happen if I do the plus plus count? Then it goes 1 through 9 instead of 0 through 8, because the count plus plus adds the extra, so the extra 1, it adds it once it's left the line of code. So here the count is 0. Once it gets to the next line, the count now is 1. But when the plus plus is leading, then it adds it within the same line. Just a fun fact, rarely we see the plus plus count. In reality, it's not used much. Count plus plus, you'll see this in a lot of for loops and things like that. But just a fun fact. But anyway, what's important right now is that once count is 9, it leaves this loop. And even when we have count plus plus, it only puts up to 8, but it still gets to the while loop and says count is now 9. So I'm gonna get out of here because again, when this right line prints, count is 8 at the last time, but once it exits this line and it comes back to here and then it comes back to the while statement is 9 already, so it's not gonna print the 9. It's not gonna run into here, and that's how while loops work, as we've talked about. So anyway, let's keep moving on. Again, remember we're looking at conditional statements. So once count is 9, then 9 less than 9 is false. It's a false, so while false, it doesn't run the loop. But while the condition is true, then it keeps going into the loop. Now, we talked about integers. Let's talk a little bit about strings and how these work. So here we have a right line statement, car equals bus, as literal strings. And as you can see, right line still registers the parameter as a boolean. And then we have another if statement, if car equals bus, means you right line, you write pigs fly. But if not, the else, then pigs do not fly. So let's run this code. And as you can see, this false line corresponds to this right line, car equals bus. And then you have your pigs do not fly statement because this is a false. So if false, it skips the if and the else catches everything. So that's why this is happening. Let's move on to how this works with a print line. With a read line and write line statements. So with inputs, I guess, not so much with the write line, but more with read line when we get something into the program. And I don't need the H2 for the VMI, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the user input their weight in pounds and their height in inches, and if the VMI is less than 18, then they're underweight, which is not good. You should eat something. But let's run it. Here I am calling this calculate BMI function that will do the work for me, and as you can see, the formula is just 703 times the weight, all divided by the height square. So that's what I'm doing here, are the pounds and the inches, and just returning that calculation. And I could have just had this over here, but I can also just call a function like we've been talking about. So let's run this. So I weigh about 178 and I am 70 inches tall, which is 5'10", and nothing comes through because I'm not underweight. I need to lose a few pounds if I'm honest with you guys. Let's do one last example, and we'll do it with the while loops and also with user input. So here we have a while loop that will run until the user inputs the string stop. So let's run this, and here I'm already waiting for me to input something, so I'll say keep going, and then I can put something else, do not stop, then I can put something else. Fun fact is that this is case sensitive, so if I put stop but it's not all caps, then it keeps on going. This will keep on going, so on and so forth. And what's happening is that I put an input, it reads it, it takes the value, comes here with a value that was inputted, and then it compares it. So while they're not the same, this will keep on running. So if I put the same string as it'll be looking for, the program ends and I can run it again. Also, fun fact, this is called an empty string because it's just the quotation marks without nothing in it. This is again an empty string. If you print an empty string, you're telling to print just an empty space. You're telling to print nothing. So it's not, it wouldn't do anything with it, but it is called an empty string and it is used in coding because sometimes it's useful to know if your string is empty or if it's null. That's another topic too. So anyway, I just want to create a video to expose you guys to this conditional statements like we've been talking about. Again, when you're writing this, when you have a write line with a conditional statement like here, write line knows that you're calling with a boolean value because this is a boolean value after all. And so I just wanted to see you guys how I compare strings and how I compare integers and how these are used and correlate to the use of loops and control flow with ifs and else if statements. Hopefully this is helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.